So today's topic I think is really useful. It's photo editing apps and how to use them. So, so first off, what is photo editing? It's really handy to do on your devices when a photo doesn't turn out quite the way you wanted it to. So we're going to be going through kind of the basic photo editing apps. So nothing like Photoshop or anything like that, but the basic photo editing apps that will come on your devices that you can do things like increasing the brightness of a photo, or correcting red eyes, or cropping photos to reframe the image. So starting off, a really common one if you have an iPhone or an iPad is just the Photos app that comes automatically with that device. So it does offer some pretty good editing tools to do some basic editing of your images. So if you want to do recoloring, cropping, or adjusting, these are all things that can be actually done right on your device. So first things first, you would need to click Edit, which is the button in the top right-hand corner of the photo screen. And then it would take you to this screen. And on that screen, you can go through a variety of options. So there's three sort of symbols down here, and you can go through adjustments, filters, and cropping. And through those, you'll see different options that can change the image in various ways, and we'll get into that. But one thing to note is that you can choose to change a whole bunch of factors in the image yourself. So you'd be doing your own coloring, as it says. Or one thing you can do is called a filter. So filters will apply many different parameters to your image at the same time. And that way you don't actually have to go in and manipulate all those little different things yourself. So sometimes just going and selecting a filter is a really easy way to change a bunch of things in your photo. And then other times you might have something more specific you want to do, so a filter may not work best. And of course, you can crop and straighten your photos. iPhotos is the equivalent on Mac, and we'll be going through a demo of that today. But basically, it has similar editing capabilities as the phone and iPad, but it does have a few more options, and it is a bit easier to go through. So first up, when you click on a photo, you'll be able to click the button Edit in the top right-hand corner of the screen that contains the photo. And then once again, you can choose to edit all of these different things we see here in the photo by yourself and just kind of see it as it goes and make changes as you like to. Or you can just select a photo, and once again, that'll change a whole bunch of different options for you. So oftentimes filters will be named with the theme that it kind of is. So some filters will be called black and white, or like vintage, things like that. And they'll change a whole bunch of these categories automatically. And then you can also do just simple retouches with iPhotos. So you can do things like fixing the red eye on the photo, or just increasing brightness, changing the color, things like that. On Google Photos, it is similar. So Android devices, this is kind of the equivalent for their photo opening app. And so if you want to edit, you have to click this interest unique symbol in the bottom of the screen, which we can see here. And then it'll take you to a bunch of options for you to do your own coloring and editing options. So here we can see a bunch of different filters. So original, auto, west. So you can choose a filter, or you can change the options yourself. For example, in this lower image where we can see that we can change all the individual settings on light. So exposure, contrast, whites, highlights, shadows. And again, like all other photo editing apps, you have the option to crop or straighten your photos. Next is Windows Photos. So with Windows Photos, which is again the built-in option for Windows computers, you can crop, rotate, add filters, and automatically enhance your photos. So again, many of these things carry over to all of the apps that we've discussed today. But first, you'll want to find the edit button again, And so that's found at the top of the screen on the photo you want to edit. And once again, it'll take you to an image like this that's displayed here. And you'll be able to select options like crop and rotate at the top. You can see these three categories. So we have crop and rotate, filters, and adjustments. So right now, this person is under the filters category. So they can choose different filters, which, as I said, have different names depending on what they do. So there's original, sauna, rouge, for example. And then in adjustments, it's going to be things like red eyes, light, color, clarity. So more specific things rather than a filter, which will apply it to the whole photo, many different things. And again, you can touch up minor blemishes in adjustments would be the place to do that. Next is Instagram, and this is a social media app. So you can really have this on any device. It's not built into the computer though. And so if you post your photos to Instagram, before you post it, you have the option of editing it with various features that we can see here. So as you click through to post your photos, there's no way to miss it. It will automatically take you to this page. And as we can see at the bottom, there's two categories, filter and edit. So once again, this is kind of consistent for all of the apps that we've looked at, all of the programs we've looked at, because there's an option to filter, which will apply these broad filters to the image. So we have normal, Clarendon, gingham, and then we have edit, which is where you can go in and nitpick more tiny details, like if you want contrast or brightness. So that's if you have a more specific thing in mind. Sometimes I just like to apply a filter and I'll think it looks good. Other times I'll want to go in and also add some adjustments. And then another cool thing is the magic wand, which is at the top of the screen, we can see here. And if you click on this, it will do an auto adjustment, which is meaning that it will, the Instagram app will automatically make a few adjustments to your photo to make it look better. So that's a really easy option. So Snapseed is a smartphone app, so it does not come with a phone. Again, you would have to download it much like you would Instagram, but this one is exclusively for photo editing. So unlike Instagram, it would have many more options, which we can see here. So first, and this will also be done in a demo today, I believe. But first you would start by clicking open. Once again, choose the photo of your choice. You can select filters, and then the cool thing about Snapseed is that it has so many tools to edit images. So if you're really wanting to go into depth, Snapseed would be the option for you, because you can even select certain areas of the screen to isolate and only edit that part, I believe. And then you can also add text, frames, and of course, all of the other elements on the other programs mentioned before. So this is really your comprehensive app for everything if you're really a photo connoisseur. And then there's Layout, which is actually owned by Instagram as well. And this is an app that is specifically for making collages. So multiple pictures put together in one photo. So in this app, you would first, much like you would on Instagram, you would select the photos you want to use, and then it would display them in this format, which you can then edit and scroll through and change the way you want it. So for example, maybe you wanted the two photos to be on the top or the motorcycle to be on the bottom. So these would be things you could change. And then when you're happy with it and you can go through all the editing steps, then you have the option to upload it directly to Facebook and Instagram, or to save it to your camera roll, because again, it is connected to Instagram. So now onto the live demos. I'm going to be showing first how to use iPhotos, and then Macaulay will go into Snapseed. So this is the auto enhance, you can see. So you can see that it kind of increased the contrast a bit. So, but this is where you would get most of the editing done. So you would click on this edit button. I don't know if you can see in the top right. I'm just gonna this.
Taking a
Okay,
class.
so once you click on this edit option, you then see a whole bunch of options here. And that's falling, sorry, the Zoom is blocking a lot of my, okay, there we go. Okay, so we can see at the top how there are 3 categories: adjust, filters, and crop. So similar to as we explained in the demo, these things will do different options to your photo. So under adjust, the first option is light. So with this big slider, you can simply pull that down and it'll make the image darker, as we can see happening. Or as we take it to the right, it'll make it even brighter. So I like it there, so I'll just leave it there. But one thing to note is that underneath light, we even have more options if you are interested in going into the details of what is being changed. So there's brilliance, exposure, highlights, shadows, brightness, contrast, and black point. And to be honest, I'm not even familiar with all of them, but if you are one of those people who really likes to edit certain things of their photos, you can even go in and change these specific values and see how that affects it by just simply sliding these things. So it looks like this is just changing the darkness of the background. And then exposure, all these different things you can edit if you go under options. But if you're more like me and you're happy to just do this, then that's a good option as well. So next is color. So, oh, I see it. So if you want an explanation, so brilliance applies region-specific adjustments. So it brightens dark areas and it pulls in highlights and it adds contrast, as we can see here. And then exposure can lighten or darken the photo, and that affects the overall brightness of the photo. So this is exposure, what would happen if you adjust that. And then highlight will bring out or dampen the light areas of the photo. So in this case, it's the part on her jacket. And then shadows will do the same thing to the dark areas of the photo. And brightness is self-explanatory. It makes the image brighter or less bright. And then contrast will increase the difference between the dark and the light areas. And black point is actually an interesting one. It sets the darkest parts of the photo to black. It makes it even more black. So we can see it's kind of like contrast. So moving on to color.
Also, black point is a great option when you're turning it down. If you want that kind of faded old photo look, you can turn that really down, and it kind of gives that fade to the photo.
I've just learned something now. And then color, saturation. Well, once again, you can just adjust this thing at the top, and as you can see that as I drag this slider, it's changing all of the options a bit. But again, I can go in specifically and I can adjust saturation. So saturation is the intensity of colors. So you can make them deep and vibrant as we go over here, or we can make them really muted, which can give an old-timey effect, I guess. I don't know what it is. Okay. And then contrast is again similar to the last section, because in the last section, the contrast would use the light of the photo to adjust, and this section would use the color to create the contrast. So if we go up here and then down here, we can see there's a lot more contrast. And finally, cast will allow you to change the overall appearance of the colors in the photo. So, there we go. And so now next is black and white. So here we can just see it's all black and white. And if I want to go back and undo that, I'll just click that little arrow. And then retouch is pretty interesting because it's almost like Photoshop, because you can use it to blur certain things. So, whoa, that was really obvious. And then, so if I want maybe her screen to be blurred, I would just draw on that, and then now you can't really see what she has on her screen. And then also this can be used for blemishes if you have a portrait, because you can make the size really small to go in and do little touch-ups. And finally, red eyes. When someone has a red eye in the photo, you would use this and click on it. And I actually have another photo that I can quickly show the red eye on. And then, of course, there are many other adjustments that can be made in this section, but these are all some of the common ones. And again, you can just go through and fiddle with those anytime you want. And if you don't want to spend all that time playing around with these features, there is a good option for you, and these are filters. So at the top, we have these 3 options. We were formerly in adjust. Now we're going to go to filters. So now when I click on filters, we can see all these different options. So here's the photo that we have right now that we have edited. And then we have different options that are just going to layer on top of our adjustments. And so there's vivid, or we can choose vivid warm. There's dramatic, dramatic warm, all these different names, but they're just going to apply a variety of adjustments at the same time to the image. So I'll just leave it at that for now. And then lastly, if you want to resize or rotate your photo, you can go to crop. So let me go to edit again. Crop would be where you can make it smaller, or you can even move this square so only have the top part of it. Or the cool thing is say this was a photo of an assignment or a piece of paper and it was off center, you can actually change the angle of it to make it straight. So let's do this. And then one thing that's really cool is that you can reset it. And I believe there's a way to revert all the edits. Let me just, oh yes, right here, reset adjustments. So we can see we really did a lot to that photo, but we can always have our original photo back. And so now I wanted to really one more quick thing for the red eyes on this image. We would go to adjust, red eye, pick a size. I'll say that, and then it will do something really cool, which is just get rid of the red eyes. So that's all I have for this demo. Let me unshare.
Yes, I will, and I'm going to do a quick demo now on my phone, so you can see the equivalent on, say, an iPhone, but again, it will be similar I can quickly go into Google Photos too. This will just be really quick to show kind of where you find those similar features. Just give us a second. Okay, so you can see my screen. Great, so if we go to photos, so in your photos, if you have a photo, what you want to do is click edit up in the top right corner. And this is where you'll get those options. You have that kind of magic wand thing again that will change it automatically. And then if you kind of just scroll to the right, you have all those same features. So you have the exposure and you can just adjust. You have highlights, you have saturation and all those certain things, warmth, stuff like that. Or you have your filters, which is this button right here, which is the kind of looks like, what's that called again? I don't know, the 3 circles. And you can go through and choose different filters for your photo. And then crop is that last button. You can adjust it so it looks straight, or you can crop it. So you have those options as well. You can use this auto thing to auto correct to make it straight and stuff like that. And you click done to save the changes, but you can always go back by clicking revert in the bottom right-hand corner, and it will go back to the original photo. So that's the equivalent on the iPhone. One other quick app that I think it's a really, really great app for editing photos on your phone. It's a free app. It's called Snapseed. I do think it's owned by Google as well. And it just has a lot more tools to use. So to use this app, all you have to do is you click the open button in the top left-hand corner. It will take you to your photos. You select a photo. I've just selected this photo because it's the one I've been using. And you have a few options. So the first option is this looks section in the bottom left-hand corner. And this is where you have all those filters that all these different things have. You can choose whatever you'd like. And then when you're done, you press the check mark to say okay, or the X mark if you do not want those changes. The other great thing, here are the tools. So these will have all the same things that you would have in other apps. You have that white balance, you have stuff like rotate, expand. There's just so many things in here. You can add different, like there's a lens blur, so you can use that. Someone asked if you could make something in focus. You can't, but you can make things look like they're out of focus. So if I put this here, it can make it look like the rest of the photo is out of focus, which is really cool. And there's all sorts of tools. The best tool in here that I find is this thing called selective. So basically how this works is I can click on a certain part of the image, and from here it gives me options to do brightness, contrast, saturation, and structure. We'll go with brightness, and from here I can edit just that portion of the photo, so I can make it look like a storm is coming. Basically, I'll just keep adding little things, and we can make it look like now there's a storm. That's the photo I made, but if we go back to the original, that's what it looked like. So this is a really cool app. There's tons of stuff to play around in. It would be like impossible to go through all of it. There's also frames, so you can add, you know, like a little, make it look like an old photo. There's stuff like that. Vignette, which is also always a nice one. You can add a bit of, you know, a darker edge around it. So this is, I'd say, one of the best photo editing apps. It's free on your phone. And then when you're done, you can export it. You can save it to just your phone, or you can share it. And I'm sure it will come up with like, yeah, you can share it to any people, or you can share it to any apps you have in your phone. So Instagram or Facebook, you can share it directly to that as if you connect them. So in Google Photos, again, it will just load all your photos for you. And as we went through in the presentation, to edit it, it's this little button. It's the second to the left on the bottom. It looks like little switches, I guess. If you click that, that's where all your editing tools in. You have, again, filters, which make for easy editing, to turn it to use different filters on it. You have the middle button, which is you have the light filters again, so contrast, exposure, stuff like that, and then the color filters. This one's a bit more simple. You can change like the blues in it. You can tint it to green or purple, change the warmth, which goes from like an orangish red to blue, and stuff like that. And then lastly, you have that crop option, so you can crop the image, or else you can crop and then you can rotate it however you like. So as you'll notice, all the options on all of these apps are basically the same. You know, it's across the board. Photo editing, the options you get with color and lighting, they're all going to be called the same thing. Where things are located might be different, but generally it's the same name. It's always you're always going to be dealing with exposure, saturation, warmth, highlights, shadows, and stuff like that. That all has the same language in every single editing app.